Bob, you have a spot up there.
Yeah, I know. I feel the
glass would be the same I guess I don't remember that. I'll look again. Just call.
I like next door. I
Sit here. Maybe I put this over slide
We have a quorum, and it's 7 o'clock, so I will call this joint meeting of Princeton City Council and Princeton Town Board to order. Mr. Mayor, would you like this?
Yep. I'd like to call our meeting to order at 7 p.m. for the Princeton City Council. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance jointly. Yes, sir.
There are two different agendas, slightly different in front of you. One black spread.
Included the pledge, otherwise it's basically the same, any of it. Directions for the agenda.
Mr. Chair and Mr. Mayor, I would move to adopt the agenda with items 6, 7, 8, and 9 struck from the agenda. I feel that these are items that we don't even have a policy in place right now. And we're gonna start talking about building roads. That's putting the cart in front of the horse. I think it's a waste of all of our time. And all of us should have this memo I put out in front of you. I would like to add that for discussion.
So you got two things going on here. Number one, you want to strike 6 through 9, and then you want to go add for number 12.5, and you want to add that in for 12.5, or what's your motion?
Anywhere that you want to add it.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can get a second on that.
I'll second it, just to keep discussing this.
We got a motion, you got a second. Seeing no discussion, take a vote on that. All those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Aye. Motion fails. Okay. Motion failed. Yep, so we're still on the same agenda.
Okay.
We got a motion to approve it.
Is there any further discussion on adoption of the agenda?
Then I would make a motion here to at least include in our agenda the item that's handed out by Councilor Evans as a separate item under 12.5.
And I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to go to 12.5, add in the city policy. Well, I don't know if it's city policy, but it's a handout from Councilor. All those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We have a 12.5.
Introductions, I think we can start.
So you'd like to start with city staff, is that what you're going to, or where you?
Yes, sir. City staff, yeah.
Shauna, I'm the Princeton City Clerk.
I'm Stephanie, I'm the Community Development Specialist.
Bob Gill, Public Works. Bob Barbian, City Administrator.
Jenny Gerald, City Council.
Jack Reynolds, City Council.
Jack Edmund, City Council.
I'm Jules Zimmer, City Council.
Brad Schumacher, Mayor.
Dave Persing, Township Supervisor.
Greg Anderson, Princeton Township. Gene Stokel, Princeton Township.
Adam Claus with Oaks.
Bonnie Woburn, Township Clerk.
Next item is the discussion of program overview. I think the paper reasonably followed what's got here tonight. Except for possibly Mark Anderson may not have actually requested it, I would say, on paper. Okay, in the paper it says, inquired about the rules for her and a group of neighbors who were interested in annexing to the city. And she was just kind of looking for what would be required if they annex, rather than actually expressing interest in annexing. If everybody read the paper, I believe you got a pretty good following to what got us here tonight. You ready? Any questions about board members? Not?
I could defer to Mr. Barbian.
Pardon?
I could defer to Mr. Barbian.
Yeah.
He maybe helped out on that,
Yeah.
that article.
Sure, you bet. Happy to comment on that. And then just for these initial discussions, what we have planned here is just an overview. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. From what I understand, this is a topic that's been in the township for over a year, so maybe a year and a half, about some of the condition of the roads in the township of Princeton. And it appears that I think it's Marie, I'm sorry, Marie was commented in quoted in my memo, I think, and in the paper, as to whether, I could have swore she expressed an interest in annexation. Perhaps it was just that, an interest to see what options are in existence to be able to get roads improved. It seems that pretty obvious that the township of Princeton has, as well as the board, has some frustration with the condition of the roads. There's a lot of gravel out there. It seems people are looking for some change. We were approached about how can we get some change done? What can we do about it? What are some of the options? The city's happy to be of assistance to the township. You're our neighbors. We want to be good neighbors. Maybe there's some synergies that we can put together, go over here, find as we discuss these topics. We have some prepared information for you to give background. We don't have necessarily the answers. We're not a savior. We don't have our pockets full of money. I didn't drop any, did I? But I don't think anybody necessarily has a solution. It's going to cost people money. If nobody wants to spend money, we might as well just call it quits and leave. But if you want roads improved, it's going to cost money. So this forum is set up to discuss what options are out there. We're happy to be your neighbor, to work together to see what can be done. Certainly some of the city that's along some of this area is in the city limits, some of it is not. Most of it's not, to be quite honest. I can tell you it's costing the city a lot more to conduct this meeting than it is the township, but we're here to help. We want to see what we can do. We're not trying to get anybody to annex to the city. We're trying to put words in anybody's mouth. If there's something that can be done, if somebody wants to come in because there's growth opportunities, great, we'll be happy to work with you. I think that what we're looking to do is see how we can make the communities change, work forward. So.
Next item on the agenda, unless there's some other discussion on road review. Next item on the agenda is road conditions and recommended work. Mr. Gerald.
Mr. Chair, before you, in the memo, one of the discussion was on 33rd Street from 85th Avenue to 82nd and just a little bit beyond, as well as 82nd Avenue where it connects with our 4th Avenue to, I'm not sure if that's Bluff or Balsam to the north with the cul-de-sacs. Those roads are gravel and they're not consistent on width for what the city standard is. That's neither here nor there. It's how it was constructed in the township. It was just what was observed by myself and our engineer. You're looking at road tops that are less than standard width of 24 feet, which would be our bare minimum. The one 82nd, just north of the last parcel number, I believe it's 10, was 22 feet, 22 feet in steep ditches, in slopes, which, if something were to be done to bring it to somewhat of a city standard, we'd want to widen that out and replenish those slopes a little bit. As well as there was a couple on 33rd, the width was good, it just needed some shaping up, and otherwise it seemed to be in fairly good condition. But from 33rd south on 82nd Avenue Same condition, just a little bit narrow, needing to be widened out, flattening of some slopes. And then as for the two cul-de-sacs for Balsam and Bluff, condition of the asphalt, looking at it, if we were, and we just went off of what was asked of me, and so it was to what our standards would be, we'd be looking at doing an overlay, just because it hasn't been chip sealed in a while, and I don't know that a chip seal would bring it back to and get you or the residents, adjacent property owners, a satisfactory surface that would last a while. So to do that, it'd be recommended that it be an asphalt overlay.
Comments? Questions?
Mr. Mayor and Chair, this isn't directly to this approach or speech here. Tim, could you give Commissioner Reynolds a copy of this memo?
Well,
You have it, you have the agenda. Oh,
Would it be okay to add information if he gets familiar with that, or she gets familiar with that?
I want her to have a little time to look at it.
Could I make a comment in the meantime?
We're gonna have it at 12:05.
Oh,
Well, it's up to, not up to me, it's up to the mayor and the chair.
I'm okay, I want to hear the comment.
okay, thank you, Mayor, council members, and county representatives, county members. I just wanted to mention, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, at these projects, and I know that a number of people have looked at it. I know the township engineer has taken a look at it, and I know that there's been other, say, individuals that have provided numbers or estimates of repairs. And I think from what I understand, they range from 100,000 to 600,000, or 700,000. I guess they've all been ballparks. But I haven't been able to locate any written information. If there is written information or estimates, that would be great. One thing that's important here as we discuss this, I think, is to look at the different sections. Again, very little of it is in the city limits at the current time. We don't know that there's going to be a change or not, but the city can be very cooperative about the section that's in the city limits or that we have jurisdiction over currently. We would want to, of course, ensure that any project that's in the city limits is going to be to our standards versus whatever standard. I guess if a subdivider does it in your township, then it's meeting the township standards, which I don't believe those roads currently meet the township standards, but I would defer that to the city engineer, which he'll comment later perhaps. But again, so a lot of different numbers that have been thrown around. I think the numbers that you have in the packet or the packet that you can obtain after the meeting has an actual estimate. And it's a ballpark estimate, it's nothing firm, but it's in that $700,000 to $800,000. And I think that I'm gonna, unless I get other direction from the chair, I think it'd be appropriate for the public works superintendent here to just itemize each of those pieces of road and what the estimate is on those sections. I've had people estimate a roof on a building I have, and it's ranged from $10,000 to $50,000. I ended up going with somebody in the middle, actually, but neither here nor there. Thanks.
Mr. Gerald, did you say the 33rd is basically up to width or 82nd?
33rd seems to be of width, 82nd does not.
We would move to 7 then for this, the estimates, we would do the opinion of the probable cost.
Yep.
Our engineer's estimates for 33rd Street west of 82nd Avenue, so between 82nd and 85th, and it's all broke out, but the bulk of it was 143, 149, 33rd Street, east of 82nd Avenue was 109,146. 82nd Avenue north of 33rd Street came to 285 and some change, and that had to do with some soil corrections on the very north end before it turned into the asphalt cul-de-sacs and possible culvert. We weren't sure there was going to have to, we believe there to be some borings would have to be done to verify what soil corrections had to be taken at that point. 82nd Avenue south of 33rd was 148,360, and then overlay of Balsam Lane was $38,023. Bluff Road overlay was $70,700, and the grand total for to do all of those roads was $794,396. Now we haven't. There was no breakout of what any assessments would be. That was just the grand total. So I don't have numbers for you for what it would be per property.
Questions?
I do have some comments. And I know this is ballpark on all your figures. I'm not sure where WSB is getting those estimates from, but I did a cost comparison from the historical bid prices from MnDOT. And looking at a lot of these prices I'm seeing here, I'm not here to argue price, I understand that, and I would agree with the motion that was made at the beginning about putting some of this stuff aside, because unless we sharpen our pencils here a little bit, I mean, some of these numbers scare people. I would say that these are on the high end. We've got a lot of contingency of 15%, another indirect cost total of 24% contingency. According to some of the numbers I ran, this in what I was running, they're about 43% high from what I came up with from MnDOT's bid prices. And I didn't run over all of them and look at all of them, but just some of the gravel is about 19% high. Your bituminous costs are anywhere from 70 to 50% high. And at MnDOT, we typically use 8 and 20% for pre-engineering and post-engineering. So, again, not to pick apart the estimate, because I know it's just an estimate and it can be all over the board, but I think this is on the high end, considerably high on the high end.
And Mr. Wickham, if I may, just to add for the discussion is that at this time of year, when you're going out for numbers are high. I used to be in the private sector, and I'd shoot the moon when I was asked to give a bid. If you want it done this year, this is what the numbers are.
And that's what they're giving you?
Yes, and so these are the numbers that we're given, and it's by no means trying to inflate, it's just this is what the going price is at this time of year.
I was using average bid prices,
Yep.
15 through 18.
And so we didn't do any average, this is what numbers that we were given.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think that going through this process is just to have that conversation, to show some information, to have that, and then where it is able to have a conversation about the different processes, when we're bidding in the fall, or whether we're bidding between 15 through 18, going that price. This process all has to start with a conversation that we're having now, and tonight, to be able to share that information, where we would be able to, better inform everybody in the process, in my opinion.
Question for Mr. Wickham, you'd be talking then, right, in the $500,000?
Today's dollars, 562, and we typically figure 4% inflation on it every year.
So if it's next year, we're talking 580, 2021, we're talking up over 600,000.
I say, given the current jurisdictional lines, I would encourage the township to have their engineer put an estimate together. I don't know, I haven't seen one. I asked for one, but I haven't seen one.
Okay, now we know what we're up against. Any other questions about the cost? Funding sources to pay for improvements would be the next item.
So, Chairman, if you can see in front of you, I laid out some of the funding sources that we use throughout the state of Minnesota for funding road projects. There are a variety of ways we can fund them. The state of Minnesota has obviously allocated state aid to townships and cities, but that money can only be used for state aid routes, which this is not. So just kind of going through step by step what monies are and why we're not using them for these projects. The local road improvement program is something that we could use and is eligible for this for both the city and the township to apply for 2019 funding. You had to have your applications in by March 1st, but this year there was no money allocated to that fund. It can go from $0 to the year before they had $35 million available for this program. So your guess is as good as mine what it'll be the next go around. I saw 8 million a lot or 24 million through the past years, but not, this was the first year that I saw since 2009 where there was $0 allocated. The projects that they did approve are ones that they're using to show the legislature the need and necessity for this funding. So those will be the most likely funded projects, the 56 that were approved next go around, which could be in 2020. So the likelihood of us getting that funding probably wouldn't be for a few years. Through the county, they do have local option sales tax, but this money was appropriated in 2016 during their public hearing. So that all of those projects will be completed in 2019 for the next 8 years of funding. So there's not really opportunity there for us to get any money either. The wheelage tax, as many of you probably know, was not passed for the additional $10 for the additional expenses, and the county uses that money for their operating budget for the current tax amount that they have. The street maintenance fund that they have covers routine resurfacing and only on county roads, so not township roads or city streets. The county said they will not levy for funding for township or city roads, so it will only be used on their county projects. And then we have us, the township and the city, and we both have the ability to levy our own funds and also assess our current corresponding residents. So that's kind of our funding outlook for this project.
If I could, I'm gonna touch on the local option sales tax, when we get to 12.5.
And
There's more to it than that, so.
These questions were covered, or these funding options were looked at in part because questions that were received and some questions that came at a city council meeting previously. That's why we took a look at these programs. I would just mention that local road improvement program, even though there's no funding currently, because the school is on this route, there is the potential that it could be prioritized as having some regional significance.
And also because of the usage for the route also, not because of the regional significance of the school being located there. And also the number of users on the route are both high marks for that road.
But there is no money and not likely to be until at least 2020, no, 2021.
Yeah, probably at least.
I defer back to Councilor Edmonds. No, I'd like to hear about the sales tax option since it was just mentioned. Instead of waiting until 12, why don't we do it right now?
Sure. Well, to start with, the local option sales tax was implemented, we're in the third full year. With the 10-year implementation, At the time, there were, and I don't remember numbers, but there was half a dozen road projects identified. I'll use that number, don't hold me to it, for construction in that 10-year period. If anybody thinks that local option sales tax is going away, I have a bridge I'll tell you. Anyway, it's not going away. A tax does not go away. This tax will be extended, because when you come around 10 years, you know, well, we gotta fix the road we fixed in 2016. You know, it won't go away. So that's a given with taxes, we all know that. The county does have the option of reallocating those funds to different road projects. It takes a public hearing, but that was part of the selling point of the local option sales tax, was that it was not written in stone. It could be modified. There are two commissioners sitting here, they both know that. Takes a public hearing, then take a notice in the paper, have it at your regular meetings, whatever. And they also have the option of, they don't have to extend these projects out for 10 years. They can bond for these projects. They could do 5 in a year and bond and use the revenue from the local option sales tax to pay that bond. Does not touch levy funding. It does not assess anybody anything. The only money any of us have in that local option sales tax is when we go to the liquor store, McDonald's, or not McDonald's, Walmart. Not McDonald's now, I guess your county adopted one. But. And I'll be right up with you. I was not a big supporter of that tax, but it did pass. And now it's here. And at the south end of the county, right now, I think, you can verify this, you guys, there are 0 road projects on this end of the county. A vast majority of the funds that support that sales tax come from this end of the county. We have the biggest retail in the whole county here in Princeton. We have McDonald's, or we have, keep them McDonald's in Sherburne. So Walmart, Aldi, the liquor store, you name it. I mean, Black Lake is dead. I don't know. I don't have numbers. I didn't stop. I didn't check with Pat on numbers, but you guys maybe have some. I don't know. But I'll bet half of that sales tax revenue comes from the south end of Black County. Maybe 40%. I don't know. It's a huge number. So we have some leverage. And what it's going to take, ladies and gentlemen, is for you to put pressure on these 2 commissioners. They need to peel a third one off to get this through. And they can probably get, I don't want to put Dave on the spot, but I think he'd be open to it. But it takes you 2 to bring it to the county board. And you 2 have to be united. Because a northern commissioner is not going to support this if these 2 don't. And that's just a given. I was on the county board for 8 years myself. I know how it works. And I think this is the best option you guys have to get that road fixed. But it's gonna take a lot of public pressure on the county board.
Could I clarify just something on what you had said? So in the option sales tax, you know, going through this process, it's only allocated for county roads only?
Local county roads.
Okay, so this is still a
It'll be a
township?
3-step process.
Okay.
Number 1, the township will have to be willing to give up the road authority to the county. They've already expressed that interest, and they don't want it. They're willing to give it to us, but they should be willing to give it to the county.
Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is, the county board has to adapt it as a county road. County road 176 or whatever. And step 3 would be to allocate local option sales tax funding to bring the road up to standards.
Brad, can I talk?
Yep, 1 second. So in all possibilities, there has to be a multitude of things to get this.
3 steps. 1 is already done.
To get this process to go through. And so I just wanted to just clarify for everybody, so everybody's on the same page. The county has to step to do this process.
The residents have to petition or just express, and maybe do a petition, a written petition, says why.
And then, Chairman, I want to go to the county commissioner. It's not, you know,
I understand, that's why I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah, no
but
problem, good.
Counselor Edmonds is not correct. We've already bonded for those roads, we've already had our hearings, we cannot change our plan. Our plan is already in place, our contractors are already set. To do the local option sales tax for this one project, we would have to start the project all over again. However, the city can also implement local option sales tax on your own. You just need to go through the hearing, and it has to go through the legislator, but you guys have the power to do that.
Why would we do that when we already have one in the county?
Because
why
you
you're saying
have
it's
to
not
wait
accurate?
8 years.
No, you can,
No.
Commissioner, I was at all three of those two listening sessions, one public hearing. Your selling point was that this is a flexible tax or implementation, however you want to define it. You can have another public hearing.
But we've already chosen the projects, and we've already bonded for the projects,
You
and
can
we've
add
already
it.
picked up the
You
contractors.
can change it. You can have a public hearing and change it. And that's a fact.
So I'll come back, yep, to the chairman.
Yes, let's get to, we can take it up at the end. You know, let's,
Go on to,
we are looking at lots of different options. I guess next, any other discussion about funding sources?
Mr. Barbier, any other discussion on funding sources between you guys after hearing all that conversation?
Well, let me just ask, again, we're not the only expert in the room. I would consider the engineer, Todd, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. McCullough. Todd, do you have any other sources that you're aware of that should be noted at this time?
I do not.
I'm not aware of any special funds. I would say that one of the things that we would do as a city, given the school properties in the city, we as a partner in this equation would look to see if there's any special ability to obtain funding on behalf of the school for their fair share, so to speak, or to see if there's any ability to prioritize a project or funds to utilize them because they are a primary user. But I'm not aware of any other at this particular time. As far as the, I'll call it discussion on the LOST program or the county program, I couldn't speak as to that as a source that would be able to be obtained or not, but certainly
You go right to MnDOT, no tell you about it.
it would seem to take some steps that would create significant hurdles if at all possible. So
No, I
that's my summary, I guess, where we're at.
appreciate that on finishing up.
Could I just make one comment regarding the school district? I'm a little bit torn on that. We don't need to give the school district any reason to raise their taxing authority on us. We already pay enough school taxes. What's the difference if we pay it to them and they put it in the road, or we just pay it directly, or?
It would be nice to be able to find other people's money, just like everybody here would like,
We all pay
to
for
fund the
it.
project. It'd be great if we could have other people pay for it, but I don't know if that's possible.
I think what Mr. Barbian is saying is there might be state funding that is set aside for transportation specifically used for school districts who are building new schools and going through there. So it's not necessarily taking the budgeted levy money that our Princeton School District gets now, but in turn applying for a grant that would be optional, be used when a school is building a new school, such as if the school puts solar panels on top of their roof. There's grant funds set aside by the state legislature, so you can access those funds when you're building your new school to put solar panels on your roof. Just like if there would be to build infrastructure or go through the parts of your school, that money is just sitting in St. Paul, waiting to be applied for and then approved, which I think what Mr. Barbian is saying is that that could be a possible funding source.
If we can find something, we would work with the school to do it, but we don't know if there's dollars there.
I would certainly support exploring an option like that. Would be 100% behind that, but you might be talking 10 years down the road.
But if we don't have that conversation now, we won't have anything in 10 years. And that's why I think it was important that we had this conversation.
That's why I thought this local option sales tax would probably get the job done quicker than anything. And that's not gonna be this year, that's a given.
I would just put a caveat on any types of funding that might prioritize school funding. They're not gonna fund this whole project.
No.
There'd be a small player in the total package.
And going back to what Councilor Evans was saying, nobody's saying that your option doesn't work. but it's an option that's getting put out on the table to have that conversation, just like we're saying the option to partner with the school district to apply for the grants through the state with the money already sitting in St. Paul to fund this. No different than if you put solar panels on top of our school to help go through that process.
Any process besides assessing the local property owners or taking it out of our general reserve or whatever, I would support.
And that's why I think that we're having this conversation, to be able to talk about all these ideas.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep.
The school district only has about 15% of the total project on linear footage. When you split the road down the middle. So they're, they're not a, I mean, they're a player, but they're not a big player. Sorry.
And that 50% would be the project as a whole. So we're talking the south of 80, south of 33rd on 82nd, they would have half of that cost. And they would have half of the cost on everything west of 82nd on 33rd.
East of.
East, I'm sorry, east.
Yes,
Correct.
Okay. And
Because this whole.
Just quick rough numbers, I was looking at this, and I came up with about 15%
Of the whole.
of the total.
Of all of it.
Yeah, but then they would have 50% of the 50%.
15%.
15%.
15% of the total.
It's a 50, yeah.
Sorry about that, Rich.
So that would be somewhere in around, depending upon which estimate we're closer to, $75,000 to $90,000.
Be about 105,
Okay, with the-
106 on our numbers, but if we, using MnDOT's numbers, I'm just, going off of the numbers we had. So.
Going to move on to number 9 then?
Yes, sir.
Well, as was mentioned earlier, both the city and the township have legal methods to build and construct improvement projects and then assess them back to the and I think all the residents here understand that. We went through that quite in length last fall when we went through the subordinate district, tried to create a service subordinate district, as you know, it failed in the referendum. So basically, it's the bottom line is if one entity has to do the project. I don't think it can be a combination of city and township. The township can assess city property, the city can assess township property. So either way, we'll have to choose one particular body to do it, and then go through the assessment rules and figure out somehow how, if the city does it, how they can grab the township residents as far as assessment. So I'm not sure exactly how that legally works.
I could just add to that. I think what limited research we've done on the question as to somebody taking the lead of the project is, and then as far as assessing property owners, certainly either jurisdiction can, but they have to do it over their own residents. And it's totally up to, even if you look at the maps, I'm going to jump ahead, which road are we doing, or is it all of the roads? And, what areas are then assessed? Are they assessed on a front footage or per acre? There's different means in which you can set your assessment districts up. And these are decisions that would have to become, these are decisions that would have to be made. Perhaps there's agreement on the sections of road that are adjacent to the city and the town. Maybe that's all that gets done. Or maybe it's the whole project. I guess, again, that's what some of this discussion may be able to reveal. Perhaps find some sections that are acceptable. Maybe it becomes assessed on a square footage or frontage. I couldn't say. Maybe it's their district-wise as was set up initially. I don't really know some of the people that might have the biggest or largest concerns for the conditions of the roads, or which roads might be of greatest need. I also don't know, I only know of one person a few people from the town, and I've heard that there might be some interest in perhaps or potentially if the city would fix the roads, that some property owners would gladly come into the city. I don't know if that's 100% true or not. But, you know, there is development opportunities here. I know there's at least one or two larger parcels that have great development opportunities, and obviously they probably need to have better roads. Maybe there's some willingness to consider that and to come in. If it's not in the city, quite frankly, I don't know why the city would participate. There's limited roads, I think, that was mentioned, that are in the city limits, but we're here to be a good neighbor. Don't get me wrong.
Mr. Chairman,
Is there an opportunity for like a joint powers agreement? Is that something that would fit this situation?
Well, I had mentioned previously, even at the beginning, that as far as somebody's gonna need to take a lead on this project, and I think the city's very cooperative and willing to be a good neighbor. I mean, what does it entail, you know? I mean, most of it is in the township.
if I could go back, Mr. Chairman, to your guys' engineer, and I'm not real familiar with your guys' firm. Has a project like this, within your guys' firm, and you probably represent a lot of communities, has any other communities tried to do this before, or has there been a track record of this happening in
In
the
a city and a township, not that I'm aware of. It's usually pretty separate.
And then splitting, like we split 33rd, is that how that works? On 33rd West, we share that road with, right?
Yes.
We share 33rd west of County Road 4 or 7th Avenue. I mean, so that's not uncommon to share a road.
True, because the boundary line is down the middle. But, yeah, there are agreements, certainly for maintenance, between townships and cities. Who plows this road, who plow, township plows this road, city who plow that road. Or many of those types of agreements. I don't know if the city or township has one here.
But actually, road building or.
Yeah, construction wise and paying for it and living and assessing, no. I don't think so.
I didn't have any questions on that, number 9.
One of the things I just wanted to point out in the handout or the packet that was prepared is the League of Municipal Cities has some good information out there. I put in there the cover page and a number of links that would be worth exploration if this is something that the members here in the audience or and the Diaz here wish to explore further. I think that there's, if there's a will by the political leaders here, the people up here, the council and the town board here, to get something done, we'll find a way to get it done. You know? You just have to find a way to pay for it, who you're gonna charge. And if people want it, it can be done. What it's gonna cost.
Mr. Chairman, are we done?
I believe so. Any discussion on options for boundary adjustment, orderly annexation agreements and everything?
And Mr. Barbie, and this is where you're talking about in the packet for all those different options, all right?
If I could, yes, I'd like to just come out front for a second, because I want to use one of these maps. There's a map up here that just shows the roads that are in question here. I'm going to go to this side of the room. So if you look at this map here, the roads are right in here, and this highlights the city limits here, the yellow line. And we have the estimate that's in the back, broken into these 4 sections. 6 sections, excuse me. So the section that's these 2 legs are in the city limits, at least half of them. So they might be the easiest ones to pick off, so to speak. Perhaps there's a way to find a way to make it so that these roads are improved. As I understand, there's a fair amount of traffic on these 2 roads. Maybe it's just the one lane. This exactly how that would be done, or what type of agreements could be put in place to have improvements on some of the roads. I think it'd be easier to look at it at a piece at a time to see what synergies could be put together and what ways or methods funding could be obtained for that. Clearly, there's going to be people impacted. I don't know what the major concerns are for these two roads or what the routes are. There could be different things put together. You know, if parties don't want to annex, we're not asking anybody to annex or to attach to the city limits, but if they want to, then it would be something then that the city would look at as to whether the city would utilize general funds or assessments. I'm sure that there would be probably a combination, especially if you got us to the point where we could get over the population of 5,000. But I don't think there's enough people out there actually. But we would look at options that would be there if there would be somebody who would put a petition or so together. Or I should just mention that the committees here at the front could come to an agreement and have what's called an orderly annexation agreement. I don't know that that's going to be something that is going to be possible or reasonable, but they could make that determination. And with any type of agreements such as I just mentioned, landowners always have rights of objection, so don't worry, you're not being, you know, no rights are being taken away. You can always object to any of these types of methods or things that occur. You have different powers, so to speak, as this process would go on. But there's information on that as well. But how you get the roads improved, I think that the leaders here wish to try to help you people find a way to do that. What that is, I'm not sure what direction. I think that they're open to hearing any of your ideas at points in time. I know that's what brought this group together.
The clarification for you.
Yes.
If there were an annexation, it would not require sewer and water access at this time.
That is correct. We have something that's called, what is that called again, Sean?
It's a rural taxing district.
Pardon?
A rural taxing district.
Maybe you could make a couple of comments on what that is, Bob.
Well, basically what it accounts for is that if we can't supply, if we don't have adequate sewer and water, council has the option to set up a rural taxing district, which you wouldn't be assessed at a standard city lot rate.
So then your taxes would be lower as the bottom line.
Could I add something here?
Oh, yeah.
If an orderly annexation agreement is probably the one thing on this whole agenda, and I'm solemnly for. We've been trying to do that with Bulletin and Princeton Township as long as I can remember. I think Bob touched on what an orderly annexation agreement would, one of the areas that would entail would be this rural taxing district. It would be a proration of the taxes over a period of time, whatever was established. That's all an orderly annexation agreement is, really. It just creates a procedure for a property to annex if they wish. We do not seek annexation. We never have. I hope we never will. If it comes to us, having an orderly annexation agreement is the best tool you can have. Am I wrong on that?
No, sir. And actually, North Branch and Branch Township did a successful merge where they have an urban taxing district and they have a rural taxing district. And they've come together as a city with two different areas that are two different taxing rates.
I don't know what else they have there, but the whole township is the city limits now. How they break it down, I have no idea.
So, I mean,
probably something similar.
I mean, if that's something that these two boards want to do, I mean, it's possible. It's been done. I'm throwing that out there to say that we're not reinventing the wheel. This has already been done.
And Councilor Edmonds, if you don't have the conversation of 6 through 9 on the agenda, you'll never get to what you just said your goal was.
No, we should have had number 10 first. And then we go over to
Mr. Bargan.
I don't know that I have any additional comments on that. There's a lot of options that are out there. And I would say that perhaps what needs to be considered is what some of those are. If there's anybody who has further questions regarding boundary agreements or how their parcel might become transition over years, because let's face it, we'd like to be here 100 years, but just mine are half over. We're a lot of time planning, and I think we need to work together as neighbors to see what's right for the land and what's right for our communities. And there's a lot of different options. I have a couple of different samples that are attached to your information. That's all I have right now. For the town chair and for the mayor, that's all I have. Is there any questions?
I don't think you. Thank you for putting that together, Mr. Barber.
Are there any other comments about options for boundary adjustments, conservation agreement, sanitation? If not, we'll move on to council and board thoughts and comments.
Well, Mayor, Chairman, I have some comments. I'm kind of taking notes here and been thinking about this for a few weeks here anyway. Listening to how you would fund these types of projects, to me, the one that makes most sense is a local option sales tax, and that would be the county. And I think Mr. Edmonds hit the nail on the head. We have to have our commissioner's support. Mr. Wilhelm, do we have any projects on the south end of our county where we're utilizing any of that? Just support it.
Yeah.
Commissioner Reynolds.
We're gonna have County Road,
37, but they dropped that.
yeah.
But
Because
could we do something with that? Because to me, I'm sitting here thinking, if this were to be 700,000 and Mr. Whitcomb maybe 500,000, 400,000, how wonderful it would be to have Baldwin pay for part of our road here by the sales tax. You know, all the townships, people passing through, people buying liquor at the liquor store, people going to Walmart, paid for by other people that don't even live here. I mean, it's a great way of funding. So
That was the biggest selling point of that sales tax. That was the biggest selling point. And the other was that it's flexible, it can be flexible.
And then you just put the boundary issue to rest, the annexation to rest. Just, our main function here, our main purpose for this meeting tonight is not annexation. It's to find a way to do the roads. And this seems to be a great option. And I appreciate Councilor Edmonds bringing this to attention to it. That's my comment. The joint powers, you know, as a council person, you know, we're all Princeton. That's what's amazing about this. We're all Princeton. But we have different responsibilities as a councilor, as board members. We all have different responsibilities. And I would have to look at, if there's a joint powers, is how is that going to benefit the city? You know, my constituents that talk to me, that I see every day, would say, well, I never even, it's not even in the city. How is 33rd Avenue going to paving that if we were to be in the joint powers agreement with the township? How is that benefiting my constituents? I don't see how it is, and that's going to be a big question. So I would strongly look at that and say, is it going to benefit the city? You know, 33rd is not a city road. Half of 82nd is. Part of 33rd, east of 82nd is. I understand that. You know, what else did I have here? Oh, I just want to find that out. The township. How long have we known about this? I've heard that the 33rd and 82nd is one of the heaviest traveled roads in the township. How long have you known about that, and then have you taken any steps other than this first meeting to find a solution for this, other than this meeting? I mean, the school has been there, what, 15, 16, 17 years. And I understand that's the main thoroughfare going through this, right?
when they were going to build the ballpark, and
Middle school, the middle school?
the school district was, basically was pushed to, that they were going to have to provide funding for improving roads, and then they just backed off and moved the playing fields further down. And that was when we started, basically,
Looking at-
and that's what
That was about 5 years ago. Has there been any money set aside or anything, any CIP, anything like, nothing like that? That was the question that I had. Folks, we have our own projects in the city of Princeton. We have 2 roundabouts that we take assessments. We have 21st Avenue that we're looking at, eventually connecting. What other issues are going on? Sterling Point Corner there, the sewer system there. We have to look out for ourselves as well. Not saying we don't want to work with the township. And that's why this local option sales tax would be great. You know, if you could just churn things around a little bit, put some things before others, and you know, I mean, this is something that has come about now and helped us out.
And again, that was implemented because it had flexibility. I think no reason that the county couldn't revisit their present schedule and maybe do some other priorities, move a couple things. And again, that money's not going away. That local option sales tax is yours. If it does anything, it'll go.
Even if it's not a year, you know, at least it's get it going. So we have a source to do this.
You guys can do it.
Yep, I got a quick question first, to go back up to those guys. In the process between the 2 commissioners that are sitting here tonight, we'll put you on the spot.
I did that already.
Okay, yeah. You did, no, you did. You're first, I'll be second. So, in the process, countywide, have you taken, in the time that you've served, have you taken any roads and turned them from a township road or a city road and turned them into a county road? Has that been done?
Not that I'm aware of. Doesn't mean it can't happen.
It happened in Sherwood County. I'm aware of a couple of different instances in Sherwood County where it's done. And as long as it's not a state aid road, the state has no horse in a race. Sandy, Representative Erickson, checked on that for me, and that's.
My question is, back, we're sitting with Mille Lacs County, we're here at Mille Lacs County side, and to ask them if this has been done, if the program has been done, has it been successful? Just like I asked the township engineer.
And as Commissioner Wilhelm said, he doesn't recollect, and I don't myself. But that doesn't mean.
I'll let Mrs. Reynolds answer the question.
Yeah, we haven't done any since I've been on the board, no.
Okay. Kind of one of those things to go through the.
Yeah, and there is a township in the north end that wants us to take over their road because it's a high-traffic road as well. And so there's many roads in the county that need help, and they can be township roads also, and they've approached us as well. But you just can't stop your process after you've got it all set, and then add one project here and one project there.
This project here
has pushed for a transportation plan pretty much since he got here. He wants us to look ahead and see what projects need to be done, so we're looking 5, 10, 15, 20 years up down the road. Now, we haven't done this. And now we want something this year, we want something next year. We're looking at the big price tag, and we want somebody else to pay for it. You know, I just, you know, the lack of planning has been, you know, pretty obvious. I mean, when that school went in there were obviously needs. When they put in the new primary school, it was looked at again. Commissioner Reynolds went to the school district and said, we are going to need a better plan for the roads there, but nothing happened. I mean, you've got to look at these things long-term. You can't just switch designations like we did with 21st. 21st was a county state aid highway. And it was changed, if I'm not incorrect, back to a county road. So we threw away that state funding because we wanted to use that money someplace else. Then, when we wanted to approve 21st, that money was gone. So we just keep changing these road designations around depending on where we want to spend money, and not really with any vision or planning.
And to go one step further, that's the goal for me as the mayor of the city of Princeton, to start that planning and start that process today and move it forward. Just what Mr. Barbian has done since he's been here for 18 months is he wants to set forward a transportation plan, not only a transportation plan for our city, but for the neighboring communities with the township and with the other township, so we can plan for the future and how that process will look and how that process will be and how it's paid for. It's not, and I know that's one of Mr. Barbian's top goals as our city administrator, is to get this council and the town board and the other town board all together and on the same page to take a vision of what our community will look like, not today, not 5 years, but a decade from now. And if we don't have that conversation like we're having tonight, and thank you everyone for coming, but we have to start somewhere. And I think starting today, moving forward, we will be moving in at least a better direction of having open communication for that. So I think going back to, my thoughts or the board's thoughts, that's where we start that process. And having, nobody's saying that your option, Mr. Edmonds, isn't valid, or Councilor Zimmer, these are all options, and if you don't talk about them now, they won't be options going forward for the future. It's to bring all of us together, all 9 of us, if I did my math right, all 9 of us together to brainstorm that idea, have it out, and then give direction. A lot easier for the city council to give direction to the staff, and then, for you guys as supervisors to have that same process and that same conversation as to where this goes forward. And so, my opinion, I think this is successful in having that conversation. And you're right, this meeting is not about annexation, it's not about, land grabbing is what somebody else has told me. It's about having the conversation for the future and how we plan for it, and planning transportation for our kids and the parents and the staff members who get to the school. The school is, I would say, one of our largest assets as the city of Princeton, to have the strong educational plan here in our community and also have a strong transportation plan to get all of the students safely to school and from school. And really what it comes down to is, here we live in central Minnesota, we know the back roads, all the back roads. We all know there's a really nice way to get to the school, but if it's clogged up, a parent or a teacher or a school bus will take around 33rd down 82nd just to, save time to be able to get your kids there and get back out of there. And you'll see, most people will post pictures that somebody's parked in the drive-through lane at the school where they're supposed to drop their kids off. But they'll be parked there and, slowing the process down. So I think that's part of this process, was to have this meeting, public, thank you for coming, and then have our council and the supervisors all come back, brainstorm the ideas, and have this conversation again. Maybe not in a month, maybe not in 6 months, but in a year. And so that we can move this process forward. Also with our school board and school superintendent. That's all my thoughts.
Segue off of Councilor Zimmer's comments here a while ago. We can probably scratch 12.5, they're gonna have it all covered too. I just identified 4 projects here, and Councilor Zimmer has agreed with them. I don't think that our residents in Princeton are gonna be really happy with us. We're gonna go look at doing a township road, and we've already spent some money on it. And leave these, and we're gonna abandon a project here that's 30 years trying to get done, a connection to the West Side Industrial Park. I'm not proud of that with my constituents and my residents in the city. We're up here talking about something that doesn't even involve us really directly, maybe indirectly, yes, but the city policy has always been annexation comes to us, and we're not abandoning that, from what I've heard. And new development pays for itself. That area we're talking about is a prime area for high-density housing development, right by the schools, parks, the rivers. But it's incumbent upon Dan Howard or Roger Wickman or Progressive Builders or somebody, builders, to walk in there and purchase that property and then come to the city and say, we want to put a housing development up there. Let's go. And I'm gonna be the first one to sign up for that. But we're doing this, we're putting the cart in front of the horse. I don't want too much covered 12.5, I guess. I think the main thing here with the residents, and what I'm understanding is they just want to see that road approved. Annexation or anything beyond that is or whenever. But getting that road approved, and I would support that. But I certainly don't think that those few residents in that area should be put in jail. I don't think anybody in the city of Princeton should be either.
Some of this is housekeeping for back at City Hall, but I'm glad that you brought up 21st Avenue. I've been planning it for 30 years and it's still not connected and it's still not done. You know, it comes back down to the same fact. If you've been planning that for 30 years and we still don't have 21st connected, you know,
Well, the airport has been
shame on
the
you a little bit.
huge obstacle has been the airport commission. That's been the main obstacle. But I was on that commission for 6 years. I went to the meeting for 6 years, and the last meeting I went to could have been the first one. I just want to clarify a point on 21st. On the north end, 21st Avenue by the industrial park never was a county connection, period. 21st Avenue was a county state aid road from Highway 95, where the roundabout is now, to First Street, County Road 29 or 31, whichever one it is. Most of you will remember there was a connection from about where you turn into Aldi's now, up to the intersection that was not completed when that road was put in. I was on the county board when that happened. What happened there is a very crafty county engineer named Dick Larson had a little short segment of county state aid road up on the Mille Lacs Lake. It was never going to be improved. There wasn't only a walking trail hardly. He convinced myself and Commissioner Cortol to allow him to bring state aid road mileage down to that intersection and get it done. And the reason I went back to a local county road is because that state aid road mileage had to be returned where it came from. So the county had to adapt it as a local county road. So that's how that'll happen.
So just going back to 21st Avenue, do you support it, you'll vote for it, to get 21st reconnected next year?
To what?
Okay, I just was checking, because you wrote 21st on there, so 21st is getting connected next year, 2020 in the plan?
You mean to the industrial park?
Yeah, the 30-year project you have here?
If we can fund it, of course, that's all. I've been for it for 30 years. That would have changed the money.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you, Shauna, for getting that down. Anything else from the staff?
I'll deny it.
I know you will, that'll be fine.
I can comment on
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Edmonds' statement. I think he's talking about looking for people to buy or sell your land to somebody and then have them come to the city for annexation. That's the best reason for us not to spend money on developing or improving the road. Because if we spend money on improving the road,
let the developer.
you turn around and
It's not up to us. It's up to a developer. The way they did out at Meadowville where I live. Progressive builders did most of that.
but it would be foolish for our township to spend a lot of money on that road, knowing that if it gets too good, it's going to be annexed.
Would it be the
We're both
intent?
kind of in a-
Would it be the intent that the township is looking only funding from your general fund, or are you funding with assessments? If you're funding from assessments, what does it matter whether somebody is in or out of the city? If they're satisfied, it doesn't matter if it's coming from assessments. But if it's coming out of your general fund, yes, then you have definitely a valid point. But again, I guess that decisions or even what split or combination hasn't really been made. But I think one thing I want to just touch upon, if I can, Mr. Stokel, to add. There's been a lot of comments about transportation and 21st and 33rd and 82nd. And these are all important roads, I think everybody can agree on. And it seems that, I think we were on what were we on? We were on next steps, weren't we? Okay, so we talked about we talked about a transportation plan, which I think is important to do, so we can help prioritize some of these roads. But I think the other thing is there a willingness to cooperate with our neighbors? I know that only, what did you say, 15% is in the city limits of the roads, or roughly? Or?
School district.
Oh, yeah, but that's in the city limits, so it's 15% is in the city limits of this whole area being discussed. I mean, are we opposed to working with our neighbors if they want to lead a project to explore funding or get an estimate together on redoing these roads, or are we against that, of paying our 15%?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking the council.
Mayor,
I guess,
Mayor,
and I should
I
say,
guess I'm glad to answer that.
well, and let me just say, I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but I think that the majority is in the township, and the township wants to lead this project. I don't know if we object, or I don't think we'd have a problem spending whatever small amount of money, but maybe I'm wrong.
He's looking for a consensus.
Well,
Did anybody speak here? No?
Chairman.
So, I just wanted to move this, I guess, to the point of transportation plan is really good, and I think that is a good goal for the township and the county too, by the way, and I think that one of those options there is also gonna be funding for a study. I don't know offhand what the transportation study would cost, but we would look towards our partners, which is the county of Princeton, the town of Baldwin, excuse me, and there's Sherburne County as well, because we want to plan for the area. I mean, what's going to be best for our community as a general rule is going to be so people can get around conveniently. We all want that. If you want to go to Walmart or if you want to go to the True Value, we got to get there. So we want to get there so it's convenient.
Well, we address that when we do comp plan, and we're probably due for an upgrade in the comp plan, and certainly transportation is part of that.
Right, and you looked at the transportation plan as far as, but you look pretty much in the city limits, and we need to take a little bigger look at that.
You do or no?
Yeah.
Counselor Zimmer wants to go first.
I'm
Counselor
done,
Evans.
I'm sorry.
You know, you're talking, Mr. Barbie, and you mentioned be a good neighbor. That's what I want to be, because people live in the township. They're my neighbors. And if they don't want to have anything to do with this, I'm going to support them too by not supporting an annexation if they don't want it. Okay, that's being a neighbor.
I would agree with that,
Okay.
100%.
But it's because I'm against something, it doesn't mean, I'm for whatever is best for the city and my neighbors.
And a transportation plan is what he's asking for a consensus if our council is opposed or for a transportation plan together with our neighbors. That's what he's asking for.
Absolutely. If
we need partners in the process.
And so what you're saying is we support it.
Well, I think that.
And then the question would be, do we support it financially?
Well, I haven't really posed that question to the council, didn't mean to pose that here at the council. That's a council question. I think in the past it's been shown that there's general overall support for transportation planning. I think right now we're here tonight to talk about these two roads. And I guess my question in particular was, if the township wants to lead a project which is primarily in the township, and there's a small amount, 15%, as it's currently drawn anyways, is in the city limits, would we work with them? I think I have a feeling we would, but I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, we'll work with our neighbors,
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's really directly speaking to the town board, then it's in their court.
Consensus from the other end?
Can I answer?
No. Counselor Carroll, Counselor Reynolds. They're trying to get a consensus on the first question, then go to yours next.
Well, from what I hear, there isn't really a desire to be the next, so, but if our small portion of it, yeah, I think we would be willing to, fund that because it's our advantage. But obviously, we cannot spend money outside our jurisdiction.
Absolutely.
We are not allowed to, even if we wanted to.
Yeah, segue.
Go next, Mr. Evans.
Well, I'm gonna segue off of Administrator Barbie, and, we do comp plans, and, we'll probably do programs, I think. But transportation is a part of that. And I would certainly encourage Baldwin and Princeton Township to join us when we do our comp plans and have their input.
Input or be partners?
No, it's their input, it's the city's comp plan, we're not, we got in trouble with Baldwin before, because they thought we were gonna steal the whole township.
Well, there's a new,
You guys need some history lessons.
we have a new mayor, so I don't think that that's gonna be a big issue like it was before. But anyway, we'll move on
You were
here.
part of the township. Anyway.
We have a really fun time at our council meeting.
I guess one of the other things too is that we're looking at this as a big package. I mean, this isn't an all or nothing. This is, we could do a section of the road. There you go. South, we could just do 32nd or 33rd, south portion. As the funds are generated, 3 or 4 years from now, we can do another portion of it. This isn't like we're gonna have to do this all one shot here. Depending what the residents are wanting to do, you know, patience, those types of things. So, you know, we gotta keep that in mind also, that, you know, we don't have those budgets to do a big $600,000 or $500,000 project. But, you know, we got 33rd, 50% of that is a city, is a school district. So that would be, my breakdown there. So south of 82nd, sorry. The south half of south of 33rd, split. Currently 33%, township 66%. So I mean, there's options. I think we have to, that was the topic here. There's next steps. We have a lot of options on the table, I think.
I think for transportation, we're talking transportation, 33rd to 82nd and 82nd to our 4th Avenue would solve the transportation issue. So it's those two sections. And the city would be responsible for, again, that east side of 82nd. And if that was accomplished, that's your route to the school, right there.
And the connector between, the connector from County Road 4 to the city limit.
Yep.
So the main connector type of street project.
You voting to fund it?
Well, I think.
Well, I'm just saying, if you brought it up, hold on.
But if I could, you know,
No,
It's not ours.
no, but I'm saying that was part of the process. You'd be helping them fund that process to our 15% or 50%, because it's 50% on your map that you're using right there.
No, you're putting words in my mouth. I just told them that would be the route to do
Yes.
that section.
I agree.
Get that accomplished, and we'll work together with Princeton Township to do that. We would do our portion. They would be responsible for the rest. That would solve the transportation.
We had laid up quite a little bit of money for exactly that project, because we have some money to do that. That was exactly what we talked about when they were building that new school, was building up 33rd and 82nd down to the city for the second escape route to the school.
But I think
where
from
it all
what
stopped. I don't know why it all stopped, or where it all stopped, but it stopped, the discussion. But we did lay up a bunch of money. We do have some money in the budget specifically for that.
Well, that would be great. That would take care of it.
I don't understand why it's not,
But I think the question that I think was raised also is the city certainly can use their general funds, but I think that everybody has, well, I can speak for the city, I'm gonna speak for the city here. We have quite a few priority projects, and this is probably not one of them. I think it would be something that the city would seriously look at assessments. Now, I don't know what the township would do, but I think from the city standpoint, we have a number of priority projects, and I don't know that this is the top one for your general fund.
It's a school property, not city property.
It's in the city limits.
Yeah.
Within the city limits, it's ours.
But that's something we've discussed at our council meeting and how we would pay for that. Mr. Barbian, we would discuss that at our own council meeting and how we would fund that.
That's not for this discussion.
That's how I would look at it.
All right.
But you're in favoritism of having that conversation at our city council at 33rd
Yep.
or 82nd. It's gotta be a joint process.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and then we get together with Princeton Township.
that's exactly what we discussed about the years ago. Like I said, we laid up the money specifically. We still have it.
And even if we did our portion of 82nd, you did your portion of 82nd 1 year. And then the next 2 years, do 33rd.
Exactly what we're discussing.
That's solvable.
Super simple. No,
That's another way to do it.
We did, that was the plan, yes.
So if I go back, Mr. Anderson, was that you guys leading the project, or was it the city leading that project?
We thought we were gonna take over and then you guys help with your portion of it, whatever that percent, well, it'll be half and half of those 2 roads.
82nd was supposed to be school.
But if they're saying it's in the city limits, so that's gonna be up to them, correct?
If I go back to it, it goes back to the engineering, which engineering firm would lead that process or that project, and then come back to, am I right, on how that goes, Mr. Barbian?
Well, that would be a choice, or something worth discussion, you know, how would, if you wanted, if there was an intent, an agreement to move that portion forward, you'd have to figure out how is it gonna be paid for, and the first step is the engineering. You'd probably get, I'm just gonna step forward here a little bit, you'd probably get an estimate from the township engineer, you'd probably get an estimate from WSB on what the engineering feasibility study would cost. It's probably how I would suggest.
I do have a question. It goes back to our cover letter here when you said that there was a phone call to Schumacher a week or 2 after the May meeting. And someone from the town informed me that the city wanted to give, that the town wanted to give the city, let's see, all the roads and all the property. Where did that phone call come from?
I gotta remember back, I'm not sure if that's exactly how that process came out. I know I see that it's written there and highlighted on your sheet, I don't think that process had come down. I think that the process was to split the road in half like it is on 33rd, west of 7th Avenue and County Road 4.
Well, I mean, who did you get the call from is what I'm asking. From the town?
I do not remember who that call was from.
Was
But
it,
I was
it a board member or a resident?
Probably a resident. But I'm seeing that that conversation would have come back down to splitting 33rd like it is on the other side. Where 33rd is divided, when you're west of 7th Avenue, it's split. Cost sharing. Which is,
So what it says here isn't necessary?
not necessarily. It's more than this statement. And so where I'm going back to this part of the conversation is that one of the 2 engineering firms would have to lead the project. And then obviously,
We discussed that before with the city.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out that our engineers' prices were a little bit cheaper. I don't know why, but did we look at that, Todd? This is 2 or 3 years ago now, when the school was being done. But it doesn't really matter. That would be, you know, one of the 2 would have to lead the project. But if you're gonna do anything, you have to get some kind of consensus from boards and board and council to move forward with sharing the responsibility of those 2 roads and getting that done first as a first step towards fixing the problem.
correct, and that's what I'm hoping that we come out of this with, is going back to say, you know, the city is willing to cover our, it's 15% or whatever portion of that, and coming up with the funds to cover it, because obviously there's gonna be an engineering bill, and there's gonna be a breakdown that says the city's gonna pay this portion of it, and Dave anteed up money. Are we gonna ante up money in the same year, or does this project go 2 years out, put more money in the CIP to fund this in 2 years, and we plan to repair this in 2 years, with us covering the costs, such as what you said, Mr. Zimmer. So I wasn't putting words into your mouth, but it was more to say, we're gonna cover our costs in the next, if you guys have the money sitting there, or close to, or ready for that, forward, which would obviously be something that would get done in 2020.
So that was our plan, that's what we were laying up our funds for, specifically.
But I would still like to maybe at your township meeting and at our council meeting, explore the local option sales tax.
Sure,
You know, why not? Why not explore it? Maybe shoot off a letter to the county board and ask for help with this. We could do the whole project.
Jenny, what kind of a time frame is there before new monies would be, the old projects are done and it would be?
7 or 8 years.
How long?
7 or 8 years.
Okay.
So what they're asking us to do is to, right now, tear out a cornfield and put in beans, which makes no sense, because we've already got.
You're saying your plans are already laid and made
They're already
and done?
laid, they're already bonded.
So you would be looking at 7 to 8 years before there would be any new?
Right, and
ones.
we'd be happy to put the project on there.
But could it still be brought to you to discuss at a county board meeting of the possibility of making some adjustments?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think we need to do that. We need your support on that, because if there's a way to finagle that and churn, you know, I mean, not discard the projects, but work it in somehow, we all benefit. You know, the whole south end of the county, that portion there benefits,
There was a,
including Princeton.
There's a similar project up in Onamia, which is one of the highest priority projects of the local option sales tax. Now, it was on the west and south side of Onamia, and they were already county roads, so there was no change there. But, the city of Onamia, it was basically Onamia Street, but it was outside of the city. And that, I believe if my memory serves, that was the first project that was done. 107, I think, or 103, or I don't know. This project is quite similar to that, in a way. I mean, because it's serving the city as much as the township probably, and, well, with the school district. So it has a lot of similarities as far as priorities, in my mind.
Serving the city and its residents?
You're gonna try it.
It never ends. So, what I'm saying is, we have our CIP meeting, we have our budget meeting coming forward, and so I think that that'll be a great time for our city council to have that conversation, and move to see about that 15% or that process to have that conversation to go. And I think that that'll be a lot easier for our city staff to be able to give us approximately what those numbers will be, using the higher numbers. You know what I mean? Because obviously, yeah, and so at least knowing that we can cover the project within inside the means of the budget.
Your Honor, can I make one more comment?
No, let me go one more thing. So, I want to ask the county commissioners, when we put them on the spot for the third time, have the projects for the county come under budget? I mean, is the local option sales tax actually more successful than it was planned for? Or is it less successful and the projects have come in higher? Does that make sense? So you said we're bidding out this road and it come in at $1.3 million. Did the road come in at $1.4 million or did it come in at $1.2 million? I mean, is there surplus money inside that local option sales tax? How well is it performing, maybe is the question.
Yeah, I guess we won't know that for a couple more years down the road. What has happened is a lot of people buy stuff on Amazon. So when you think that all the money comes from Walmart, it doesn't. A lot of people buy stuff on Amazon, so now that internet tax is all through the county. So there is more money coming in, but we're not going to know what our last project is going to cost until it's done.
Okay, that answered my question. Councilor Edmonds, maybe you had.
Well, are we on next steps?
Just a comment. Your city council opened airport bids last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever, and they were 25% under estimate.
Well, there's been many that have come over, recent project, and it doesn't come to me right now, but.
Great Northern Trail.
Great Northern Trail.
Great Northern Trail came over.
What, about 15% off, or I don't remember the number. but-
Yeah, the Great Northern Trail was high, but the airport bid was low because it was,
next year.
it's for next year. So it won't start until 2020.
And that's what we were gonna do with the Great Northern Trail, to rebid it, possibly, or.
I'm not sure that's it.
Yeah, the Great Northern Trail was another one that came in high because it was late in the season.
But if we were to bid, it would make sense for us to look at bidding into next year, like bidding this fall. We're bidding in 2020 for 2021, because then people are anxious to have something on the books so they can go into the year knowing that they're going to start out bidding.
We missed those comments at this end. So you were saying then that if you were gonna bid it for, have it constructed next spring, I'll ask the engineer, when would you have to do the engineering? You guys are gonna have to decide now, if you wanna do the engineering or not. If you want it next year.
So your engineering, like work over the fall and winter to be ready for next
Yeah,
summer?
that's possible. Well, we'd have to start.
I think it's the most advantageous bids would be put bids out this fall or winter.
And you're building in, if you're gonna do it in 21, then you're looking at inflation built in, so many percent. What do you say, 4%? 4%.
So in next steps, if that was to be, it would be a joint powers agreement of some sort
Well,
to
I
be
think-
second.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I think the first step is engineering, as we all identified. If each consensus is to break out a section Well, you wanna wait till 2020, you certainly can, but if you wanna if you're gonna do it now, you need to break out a section and decide at your next meetings, if you don't decide now, and agree to share whatever part of the engineering. We can get bids. But again, we don't need to do anything.
Your Honor.
Next step, yep.
I would never support any kind of a joint powers agreement, but I think our most important next step is to do an orderly annexation agreement. And that's the most important next step we need to take. Do that first, and then we can start talking about roads, bridges, tunnels, and whatever. We need an orderly annexation agreement. We've been trying to do this for as long as I can remember.
You just gave us the best argument against that in the meeting by saying that
No, an orderly
if there was an
annexation.
orderly annexation, the city's not going to move forward on blacktopping the roads for many years.
No, you're reading that wrong, Mr. Stoffel. An orderly annexation agreement has nothing to do with forcing annexation. It's just a process whereby if somebody chooses to annex, we have a procedure to do it. You prorate taxes, you might have another couple other, that's all it is. It's nothing to it.
A policy.
That's all. It does not, it in no way, shape, or form encourages annexation, or invites it, or, I just think it has to be our first step. Without that, I don't know why we're going anywhere. We have to have that first.
So that's why Princeton has a new mayor, because that isn't necessarily the first step. Princeton has been successful in a joint powers agreement with Bulletin Township and Sherburne County in order to put a roundabout in without any orderly annexation. It goes through the process that we fought and we ground this out for a very long time. It wasn't successful. Clearly it wasn't successful. Here, this I believe is successful in having the process to have the conversation, for us to have a conversation back at City Hall that says, are we willing to go forward with engineering fees, and are we willing to go forward with the joint powers agreement, which says we're going to use, Mr. Todd's firm, I can't see your last name either, or WSB's firm to move the project forward and cover a portion of the cost at 15% or whatever the percentage is that comes up for the whole project, if that makes sense. And so it's not necessarily slamming out an orderly annexation agreement. It's more about a joint powers agreement that says, hey, we're going to work together because we're doing it for the best benefit of all of our constituents, we want all of our neighbors. And so that's the different approach that got us here tonight, and not the former mayor and his same gridlock.
After we do an orderly annexation agreement.
That's for him to vote on. No, I really appreciate that. So on our agenda, we'll go for next steps. Then, anything else in our next steps?
Any comments from the board?
Just identify the roads that you guys want to work on, and if you want to work on 33rd and 82nd down, then that's what you need to agree on.
Yep.
And get the percentage.
And
Everybody can agree on that, then that's the next step.
And then it'll come back down to cost of the project.
You guys pay for your percentage of the road, we pay for our percentage of the road.
Seems
You get much simpler than that.
Can't get much simpler than that.
It's simple.
Okay, thank you. You want to call the meeting? We'll do it jointly to call it.
Are there any other comments on next step? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Entertain the same motion?
I'll make that one.
Motion made. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Motion adjourned. Thank you, guys.